The quiet and insidious sense of betrayal one can feel from their own body is a profoundly unsettling experience, particularly as the years advance beyond the sixth decade of life. It is a peculiar form of cognitive dissonance, where the mind, still sharp, vibrant, and brimming with the accumulated wisdom and passions of a lifetime, finds itself housed within a physical form that seems to be operating on a completely different agenda. You are, in every meaningful way, still yourself, yet your muscles appear to be chronicling a narrative of decline and frailty. This disconnect often manifests in the most mundane of daily activities. Perhaps you are a person well past the age of 65, someone who has diligently tried to follow the accepted tenets of healthy aging. You begin each day with the comforting and familiar ritual of a warm cup of coffee. You make conscious choices about your diet, prioritizing whole foods and adequate nutrition. And yet the simple act of ascending a single flight of stairs now feels less like a routine transition between floors and more like a significant physical expedition, leaving you breathless and questioning your own capabilities. The sensation might be one of unsteadiness in your legs, a subtle but persistent wobble that erodes your confidence in your own footing. Or maybe the act of carrying a bag of groceries from the car to the kitchen, once an unthinking and automatic task, has transformed into a chore that requires mental preparation and physical strain. It is entirely natural to attribute these unwelcome changes to the simple, unavoidable arithmetic of getting older, or to conclude that you are suffering from a deficiency of dietary protein, or perhaps to chastise yourself for not dedicating more hours to a rigorous regimen at the local gymnasium. But what if these common assumptions, while partially true, obscure a more fundamental and addressable cause? What if the true culprit behind this creeping weakness is a far more subtle physiological process? And more importantly, what if the solution is not some exotic and expensive new discovery, but something simple and profound, a key hiding in plain sight, waiting to be integrated into the very morning coffee ritual that already anchors your day? Imagine for a moment the possibility of transforming that daily cup from a simple source of comfort and caffeine into a potent and targeted biological tool, one that actively works to reverse the process of muscle decline, systematically reignites your innate physical strength, and builds a robust shield against the relentless encroachment of age-related infirmity. This is not a fanciful proposition based on unproven, overhyped supplements or a call for punishing workout routines that may be unsuitable or even dangerous for an aging body. Instead, it concerns a single, naturally occurring, and extensively researched compound that possesses the remarkable ability to fundamentally alter the very way your body responds to the aging process. If you are someone who is deeply determined to maintain a life of strength, to preserve your independence, and to continue living with a full measure of vitality without becoming a prisoner to a cabinet overflowing with prescription medications, then the information that follows could very well represent the most critical and empowering health discovery you will encounter this year. This is the crucial knowledge that far too many seniors are tragically missing, a piece of the puzzle that holds the key to reclaiming the powerful, resilient, and fully capable body that you not only desire but unequivocally deserve. The prevailing belief among the general population, and even within many circles of the medical community, is that the loss of muscle mass and strength after the age of 65 is an inescapable and non-negotiable component of the human aging process, as certain as the graying of hair or the etching of wrinkles upon the skin. While it is undeniable that a certain degree of physiological decline is a natural part of senescence, the accelerated loss of strength, power, and physical function, a debilitating condition clinically identified as sarcopenia, is not merely a matter of accumulating birthdays. The true and often unacknowledged villain in this narrative of physical decline is a specific physiological state known as anabolic resistance. To fully grasp the insidious nature of this condition, it is helpful to employ an analogy. Think of your collective muscle tissue as a magnificent, intricately constructed house, a structure that demands constant maintenance and repair to withstand the daily rigors of existence. Throughout your youth and early adulthood, your body's construction and repair system operates with remarkable efficiency. Every time you consume a source of protein, your body promptly and effectively dispatches a highly skilled and motivated crew of construction workers, these workers being the essential amino acids and anabolic hormones, to the site of your muscles. Their mission is to meticulously repair any wear and tear incurred from daily activity, to reinforce the structural integrity of the walls, and, when stimulated by exercise, to even build new additions, expanding the size and strength of the house. In a youthful body, this entire process is seamless, responsive, and extraordinarily effective. However, as one transitions past the age of 60, a subtle but profound change begins to occur within this well-oiled system. The foreman of this metaphorical construction crew, which represents the complex signaling mechanisms within your muscle cells, starts to become progressively hard of hearing. The essential command signals that should trigger the building process become muted and indistinct. Consequently, when the construction workers, the amino acids from the protein you eat, arrive at the job site, they are met with a confusing and silent environment. They stand around ready and willing to work, but are left without clear, coherent instructions. As a result, the vital repair and rebuilding work slows to a veritable crawl, while the natural and unavoidable process of daily wear and tear, the catabolic forces that break down muscle tissue, continues unabated. Over a period of months and years, the magnificent house of your musculature begins to crumble and decay at a rate that far outpaces its reconstruction. This, in a nutshell, is the essence of anabolic resistance. Your muscle cells, the very foundation of your physical strength, effectively become deaf to the life-giving signals that are meant to stimulate their growth, repair, and regeneration. This is the fundamental reason why you can be diligently consuming what you believe to be a sufficient or even a high amount of protein, and perhaps even engaging in regular physical activity, yet still find yourself inexplicably growing weaker and more frail. It is not necessarily a failure of your nutrition or your effort. It is a catastrophic breakdown in communication at the deepest cellular level. If the core problem undermining the strength and vitality of older adults is indeed this state of anabolic resistance, then the most logical and effective solution is not simply to send an ever-increasing number of workers to the silent construction site. Rather, the strategic imperative is to provide the deaf foreman with a powerful megaphone. We must find a way to amplify the muscle-building signal so profoundly and so clearly that the lethargic and unresponsive muscle cells have absolutely no alternative but to listen and obey the command to build. It is at this critical juncture that a truly remarkable and specific nutrient enters the picture: the amino acid known as leucine. Leucine is one of the 3 branched-chain amino acids, or BCAAs, a group that also includes isoleucine and valine. But it is far from being an ordinary member of this trio. Leucine stands alone as the undisputed master switch, the primary activator for the process of muscle protein synthesis. To return to our earlier analogy, if the entirety of the protein you consume in a meal can be likened to a large, promising pile of dry firewood, perfectly capable of producing a roaring bonfire, then leucine is the singular, indispensable spark required to ignite that flame. Without that initial powerful spark, the wood, regardless of its quantity or quality, will simply sit there, cold, inert, and full of unfulfilled potential. When you consume a sufficient quantity of leucine in a single concentrated dose, it directly and powerfully activates a critical signaling pathway within your body known as the mechanistic target of rapamycin, or mTOR. You can think of the mTOR pathway as the ultimate start-building command center for your muscles. The activation of mTOR sends an unequivocal message to your muscle cells, instructing them to halt the process of breakdown, catabolism, and to immediately initiate the processes of growth, repair, and rebuilding, anabolism. What is truly incredible about the power of leucine is its ability to flip this all-important switch, even in the complete absence of physical exercise. While it is certainly true that resistance training acts as a powerful magnifier, significantly amplifying the anabolic effects of leucine, a wealth of clinical studies has repeatedly and conclusively demonstrated that supplementation with leucine alone is capable of stimulating muscle protein synthesis in older adults, including those who are entirely sedentary. This finding is revolutionary because it offers hope and a tangible strategy for individuals who may be too frail, injured, or otherwise unable to engage in strenuous exercise. There is, however, a crucial catch to harnessing this power. To successfully activate the mTOR pathway and overcome anabolic resistance, you must consume a specific amount of leucine at one time, reaching what scientists refer to as the leucine threshold. For older adults, this threshold is typically estimated to be around 3 grams in a single serving. The unfortunate reality is that the vast majority of seniors simply do not consume this much leucine in any single meal, especially at breakfast, which is often a carbohydrate-dominant meal like cereal, toast, or fruit. This means that day after day, they are inadvertently missing this critical, time-sensitive opportunity to ignite the fires of muscle growth, allowing the slow, silent erosion of their strength to continue unchecked. You may be justifiably curious as to why your ordinary morning cup of coffee is being presented as the ideal and strategic partner for this uniquely powerful amino acid. Why not simply mix the leucine powder into a glass of water, or take it alongside your standard breakfast fare? The answer to this critical question lies in the distinct and highly advantageous metabolic environment that your body naturally occupies first thing in the morning. When you awaken after a full night of sleep, you are in a fasted state. Your body has been without caloric intake for 8 or more hours, a period during which your circulating insulin levels have fallen to their lowest point. This low insulin state makes your cells exquisitely sensitive to incoming nutrients and primes your entire system for efficient absorption without the usual interference from other macronutrients. Your morning cup of coffee serves to enhance this perfectly primed state in several beneficial ways. The caffeine, beyond providing its well-known mental lift and sharpening your focus, also acts as a systemic stimulant, increasing your metabolic rate and enhancing blood flow throughout your body. This increased circulation means that any nutrients introduced into your system can be transported to their target tissues, such as your muscle cells, more rapidly and efficiently. When you introduce a pure 3-gram dose of leucine into this clean, fasted, and caffeine-stimulated environment, you create what can only be described as a perfect storm for muscle protein synthesis. The isolated leucine is absorbed with exceptional speed from your gastrointestinal tract and is delivered directly to your awaiting muscle cells without having to compete with a flood of other amino acids or carbohydrates for absorption and transport. Now, consider the alternative. If you were to take that same dose of leucine mixed in with a typical breakfast, such as a bowl of oatmeal, a slice of toast with jam, or a glass of fruit juice, the accompanying carbohydrates would trigger a rapid and significant spike in your blood sugar and consequently your insulin levels. This creates a confusing and scrambled message for the mTOR signaling pathway. While insulin itself is an anabolic hormone, its simultaneous presence with a large glucose load can significantly blunt the specific and potent muscle-building signal that leucine is meant to deliver. The body receives a mixed message, more akin to store energy everywhere, rather than the clear, targeted command to build muscle now. By strategically combining leucine exclusively with black coffee, you are sending a singular, direct, powerful, and unambiguous command to your body's cellular machinery. This highly specific strategy allows you to maximally trigger the muscle growth signal while simultaneously keeping your body in a fat-burning, low-insulin state, a potent combination that not only helps rebuild lean tissue, but also improves your overall body composition and metabolic health. Now that the foundational science behind this powerful strategy has been illuminated, it is time to transition from the theoretical to the practical, to effectively weaponize your morning coffee against anabolic resistance and begin to see tangible, meaningful results in your strength, stability, and vitality. It is absolutely crucial that you get the details right. Success hinges on the precise application of the right form of the nutrient, the right therapeutic dose, and the right strategic timing. Adhering to these specifics is not a matter of trivial optimization. It is fundamental to overcoming the physiological hurdles of aging and achieving the desired outcome. The first critical element is selecting the right form of leucine. You must choose a pure, free-form L-leucine powder. It is imperative to avoid blended BCAA capsules, which contain competing amino acids like isoleucine and valine that can interfere with leucine's absorption and signaling, or generic whey protein powders that simply list leucine as one of many ingredients on the label. The entire goal of this protocol is to deliver a quick, isolated therapeutic bolus of leucine that acts almost like a medicine, delivering a sharp, powerful signal. Protein powders, while beneficial in other contexts, contain a full spectrum of amino acids that digest more slowly and dilute the specific signal we are trying to send, preventing the necessary peak concentration in the bloodstream. Similarly, capsules are suboptimal because their gelatin or cellulose shells must be digested first, which slows down absorption and blunts the rapid spike that is essential for triggering the mTOR pathway effectively in a resistant body. Your search should be for a pharmaceutical-grade, unflavored L-leucine powder, one that is free from any fillers, artificial sweeteners, or other additives that could potentially provoke an insulin response and compromise the integrity of the signal. The second pillar of this protocol is the perfect dose. The scientifically validated amount of leucine required to reliably trigger the mTOR pathway and stimulate muscle protein synthesis in older adults falls between 2.5 and 3 grams per serving. It is helpful to think of your muscle building switch as a heavy, rusty garage door. When you were younger, the springs were new and a gentle push was all that was needed to set it in motion. Now with age, the springs have worn and the tracks are gummed up. You need a strong, deliberate, and forceful shove to get the door to open. That precise 3-gram dose is the powerful shove your aging muscle cells require to initiate the anabolic repair and growth process. A smaller dose may not be sufficient to overcome the threshold of resistance, while a significantly larger dose offers little additional benefit and is therefore wasteful. The third and equally vital component is the optimal timing. The single most effective time to take your leucine-fortified coffee is within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking up. This period is often referred to as the anabolic window of the morning, a time when your body is at its most insulin sensitive and your digestive system is clear of any competing foods from a previous meal. To execute this, simply stir your measured 3-gram dose of L-leucine powder into your hot morning coffee until it is completely dissolved. This simple 2-minute addition to your existing daily routine ensures that the leucine gets to work precisely when its biological impact will be at its absolute greatest, thereby setting a positive muscle-building metabolic tone for the entire day ahead. The act of rebuilding and preserving your muscle tissue is an endeavor that yields benefits extending far beyond the simple, albeit gratifying ability to open a stubborn pickle jar or feel more stable and confident on your feet. Your skeletal muscle is, in fact, your body's primary metabolic engine and can be compellingly argued as the single most important organ for ensuring a long and healthy life, a concept known as health span. Even when you are completely at rest, sitting in a chair and reading a book, your muscle tissue burns significantly more calories than an equivalent amount of fat tissue. This means that the more lean muscle mass you possess, the higher your resting metabolism will be. This metabolic differential is a key and often overlooked reason why so many individuals find it progressively easier to gain weight, particularly abdominal fat, after the age of 60. It is not always that their caloric intake has increased, but rather that their internal metabolic furnace has shrunk in size and power due to the insidious loss of muscle. Furthermore, and perhaps even more critically for long-term health, your muscles serve as a massive storage reservoir for glucose, which is the sugar circulating in your bloodstream after you consume carbohydrates. When you have a healthy and ample supply of muscle mass, this tissue acts like a giant sponge, efficiently soaking up excess sugar from your bloodstream following a meal. This process helps to keep your blood sugar levels stable and your insulin response modest and controlled. Conversely, when you lose muscle through sarcopenia, that biological sponge shrinks dramatically. The sugar from your meals has nowhere to go, so it remains circulating in your bloodstream at high levels for prolonged periods. This forces your pancreas to work overtime, pumping out more and more insulin in an attempt to clear the sugar, a condition that ultimately leads to chronic hyperinsulinemia and insulin resistance. This dysfunctional state is a direct and primary driver of a host of metabolic diseases, including the accumulation of dangerous visceral belly fat, persistent brain fog, high triglycerides, and eventually the full-blown diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. By using this simple leucine strategy to preserve and actively rebuild your precious muscle mass, you are directly and powerfully improving your body's insulin sensitivity and restoring its innate ability to manage blood sugar effectively. This single daily habit supports a cascade of positive downstream effects, including better hormonal balance, enhanced protection for your joints by providing them with stronger support structures, and it has even been scientifically linked to improved cognitive function and a significantly lower risk of developing dementia. The message is clear. Muscle is not merely for movement and locomotion, it is your biological armor against the vast majority of chronic diseases associated with aging. Let us now synthesize all of this information into a clear, concise, and actionable daily routine that you can begin implementing as early as tomorrow morning. This protocol has been meticulously designed to deliver the maximum possible biological impact with the absolute minimum disruption to your established daily life, leveraging a habit you already possess. Step 1 is to wake and hydrate. Within the first 10 minutes of opening your eyes, before you do anything else, drink a large 8 to 12 ounce glass of water. To enhance this simple step, consider adding a tiny pinch of natural sea salt or a fresh squeeze of lemon juice. This initial hydration is crucial as it replenishes the fluids lost during a night of respiration and sleep, effectively waking up your cells and gently preparing your entire digestive system for the day ahead. The trace minerals from the salt can also help with electrolyte balance. Step 2 is to brew and prepare your coffee. Proceed with making your usual morning cup of coffee, just as you always do. For this protocol to be maximally effective, it is best to drink it black. If you find black coffee unpalatable, a small splash of unsweetened nut milk, such as almond or macadamia milk, is an acceptable addition. It is critically important, however, to avoid adding any form of sugar, honey, maple syrup, or heavy dairy cream, as the sugars and fats in these additions will trigger an insulin response and interfere with the clean, powerful leucine signal you are trying to send. Step 3 is to add the spark. While your coffee is still hot, carefully measure out a 3-gram dose of your pure, unflavored L-leucine powder. This amount is typically equivalent to about 3/4 of a standard teaspoon, though using a small digital scale is recommended for accuracy. Stir the powder vigorously into the hot coffee until it has completely dissolved. Leucine can sometimes have a slightly resistant texture, so if you find it noticeable, pouring the coffee and powder into a small personal blender for a few seconds will create a perfectly smooth and homogeneous mixture. Step 4 is to drink your fortified coffee within the designated window. Make a point to enjoy your powerful, muscle-building coffee within the first hour of your day, and ideally within the first 30 minutes. This ensures that you are taking full and complete advantage of your body's naturally primed, fasted state, guaranteeing maximum absorption and biological impact from the leucine. Step 5 is an optional but highly powerful addition. Move a little. Immediately after finishing your coffee, engage in just 5 to 10 minutes of light, gentle movement. This does not need to be a formal or strenuous workout. Simple activities like performing a set of bodyweight squats, doing some push-ups against a wall, stretching with resistance bands, or even just a brisk walk around your home will suffice. This light activity sends an additional potent signal to your body, essentially communicating, "I am using these muscles right now. Please direct that leucine I just consumed to these specific areas to make them stronger." Committing to this protocol for at least 5 days a week will set in motion a powerful biological cascade of renewal. Pay close and mindful attention to how your body feels. Within just a few weeks, the majority of individuals report a noticeable and encouraging improvement in their leg strength, a greater sense of balance and stability, significantly less fatigue after physical exertion, and more consistent, stable energy levels throughout the entire day. This is not a fleeting, quick-fix solution, but rather a profound and fundamental strategy designed to systematically rewire your body's response to the aging process, one single, powerful cup of coffee at a time.